Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whenever or wherever you are in the world. My name's Mark Edwards, and this is the Channel Zone podcast. My guest in this episode is Nick Hamilton, founder and managing director of Inconnection, the go-to events agency for the IT channel. Now, starting off his career with 10 years, I believe, as a PGA golf professional back in the 80s and 90s, Nick saw the trend in corporate golf days and soon stepped away from the green and moved into organising, packaging and providing corporate golf events and experiences to business. Soon after that, Nick started Inconnection, and now 25 years later, the business is now the trusted events agency for some of the biggest names in IT. Indeed, if you've been or if you've worked in the IT channel for any length of time, it's very likely that you've been to one of Nick's golf days or attended one of Inconnection's events or experiences. My own personal favourite, by the way, being the London Comedy Lunch, an annual Christmas event which Nick's team have put together and run for well over a decade, and which I believe, I hope you can confirm, will be returning again this December with another amazing comedy lineup. Nick Hamilton, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Mark. Thanks for such a glowing introduction. And London Comedy Lunch I can confirm, is very much on the cards for December again, and has proven to be an incredible event for us and for the event sector. I must say it's become
Yes.
must-do event for a lot of our clients.
For people who haven't been, what would they expect? I said I've been about half a dozen times now, and it's fantastic. But typically, just kind of describe it for us if you can, and paint a picture.
Yeah. So look. It wasn't built by design, but as I said, it has become a real punctuation in the event industry calendar. When we originally set out to do it, it wasn't positioned as that, but it has evolved into that to own that place. And a lot of it is about, look, the event is fantastic, but it's the people that are there that makes it very special. It really is a who's who from the event industry. And, within 3 or 4 hour window, you can get to see 50, 60 people and network 50, 60 people who you might not have seen for years. It really does.
Right.
Turbocharge your ability to do some great networking and catch up with colleagues and people that you work with in the industry.
It's mainly, as I said, vendors, disties, I say partners as well. And how many people are we talking here? It is. I think the last one I went to was 700 or 800, something like that.
Yeah, it is. It's look, the biggest one ever. I think we touched 1,000, which was that was the event. We managed to get a window. In COVID, there were 2 lockdowns, and there was a 6-week gap between the two. And quite nicely, one of our lunches sat in there. I think it was a super spreader lunch in the end, to be honest. But yeah, that we got 1,000 for that because there was that much pent up demand for events because of COVID and budget that was unused. So, but on average, we're about 700-800 people.
Yeah. Can you reveal who the guest is or the main artist this year?
Can't this year. We are very close, but watch this space. I can't at this moment declare who it is.
Super. Generally, the years that I've been, they are comedians at the top of their game, to be honest. So it's fantastic. I can only recommend it to anyone who might be listening. So listen, enough of the advertorial there, I think, on that one. Can you just tell us a bit more? I've mentioned your golf pro background, but tell us a little bit about yourself, perhaps, and how did you come to transition into the events industry?
Yeah, sure. Look, as you quite rightly said, Mark, from leaving school, I set about a career in golf. I wasn't particularly academic, and had a real passion for golf, so I set about that. My parents supported that, which was brilliant. They were both academic, but they were quite happy to let me go off and play golf. So which I did for 10 or 12 years. I wasn't on tour, I was a club pro. But it set me up with so many skills that are still used today. One of the main ones being as a club pro or head pro at a golf club, you often have 1,000 members of all different ages and personalities and
Mm,
backgrounds. And as a club pro, you have to get on with everybody. You can't just, pick and choose who you get on with. So it allows you to be really good with sort of people and interact with people. And it's such a strong skill in life that
mm,
really, but
mm,
certainly in what we're doing. And look, as I said, I adored doing that in my 20s. It was a really great time. But ultimately, I did realize that it wasn't going to be for the rest of my life
mm,
because as fun as it was in my 20s, you are ultimately working weekends. It's very seasonal. You're limited on how much money you can earn. The prospects aren't great. Sure, if you're Rory McIlroy, the prospects are pretty good for him, but I wasn't Rory. So I said, okay, I'm a bit curious. Want to, again, something that I believe is so important. Really curious about, look, how can I use my current skills and my current network to make more money, to be more successful? So I sort of thought outside the box and said, look, I've got this captive audience, 1,000 members. So in the winter, I started to run golf holidays
right.
in
Okay.
Portugal. In the summer months, I would run pro-ams and am-ams. I'd sell teams. Would create these, you can see where this is going, start to create these events. And we went above and beyond. We were always, even in those days, really focused on trying to deliver the best experience that we possibly could. And getting into the detail and the personalization to make each and every one of the people that attended the events feel valued, human, and special.
Mm,
So,
mm.
and that really is a cornerstone of where I am today. The event agency, fast tracked through. Eventually, I packed in the job because the event side was becoming so strong. And then I thought, look, it was heavily golf at that point, but this is over 30 years ago. Very quickly, my clients were saying, well, look, Nick, I'm running a conference or I need to take some clients to Wimbledon. Can you help? So very quickly from those first early golf days and overseas golf holidays, the agency was formed. For a short while, it was called Tee to Green, but again, we rebranded in connection so that we weren't just known as a golf
Gotcha.
agency.
Gotcha. Yeah,
So
that's super important in many respects. As I said, Tee to Green would have just boxed you in, whereas In Connection then allowed you to expand. And I said over what is it? Is it 25 years? I think it is, isn't it? So
it,
over
it
25.
is. Look, it's as I said, I packed in the club. So that this was 30 years ago.
Right. Right.
um,
Right.
when I actually got out of being a club pro into doing full-time event agency.
And then just developed from there. So a few questions here on that. So listen, for anyone who hasn't come across an event agency before, I mean, it's we understand it and know it well, but how would you describe what you do and who you do it for? To if somebody at the tennis club I know you go to, if you tell them you're in events and they don't fully understand it, what do you say about what you do and who you do it for? This episode of the Channel's Own podcast is brought to you by In Connection, the trusted events agency to some of the biggest names in IT. In Connection knows that in today's fast-paced world, it's not just about delivering a return on your event's investment. It's about delivering unforgettable experiences. Because some events fade within hours, while others become memories that are talked about for years. In Connection, the go-to event agency for the IT channel, creating memories that matter.
Yeah, look, it's a great question. That has evolved. I think as an event agency, you have to keep up with the trends. And you know, for a long time we were just very focused on format,
Right.
you know, and just the nuts and bolts. But certainly over the last 10 or 15 years, that is not in itself enough. We have to become more and more to understand the why. We have to really get focused on, you know, purpose and outcome, why we're actually running these. So, in answer to your question, you know, in the past, I might say, hey, we run business events, we do meetings, conferences, and various form and corporate hospitality in different formats for our B2B clients. So that's how it would be.
Got you.
More and more, we are, as I said, we're focused on purpose and outcome.
Right.
So we now are helping all of our clients with loyalty, with sales and lead generation, with culture, shifting culture and helping them improve culture. So
Mm.
the outcome and purpose is becoming more and more the way I would describe in connection.
Got you. Got you. So, okay, on that point, so some companies may treat events as ticking the box exercise, just something that needs to be done. Do you know what I mean? They just might go through that process, but maybe they don't see it so much as a revenue generator or relationship strategy. So, when you sit down with senior leaders, how do you make them, or how can you get them to see events as a commercial investment rather than just a marketing expense? Um,
Yes, look, so most of our clients for some time have, you know, procurement and event spend has been under scrutiny. Okay.
right,
So there are very few clients these days that just go and run an event and just go, you know, we're going to do it because we can, that we've got some money knocking around it. That is really is a thing of the past. However, I think, as I mentioned, you know, purpose and outcome are ultimately where we all need to be moving. But defining that purpose and outcome, I think, is the thing that is changing. So, you know, and I think moving away from sort of a volume based model to a more focused and intimate scenario. So rather than running a big conference for 500, we're seeing the trends being that we're looking to run a more focused event for 80 of 100 people, but absolutely hand pick those attendees and create an absolutely bespoke and personal journey for them
right.
rather than just a one size fits all volume based tick box exercise.
Yeah. So how then? What separates an event from one that people just attend? And in the tech industry, I mean, from what I see on LinkedIn, there's events every day, seemingly going on somewhere in the country. But what do you think then distinguishes an event that people will go to and maybe forget about pretty quickly, and one that they may go to and remember, appreciate, value, and even talk about afterwards?
Yeah.
What's the difference?
So, um, look, again, someone that's been enormous, as you know, Mark, someone that's been enormously influential in my career is a chap called Mark Coates, who a lot of people in the industry will know Mark, absolute legend. So Mark and I devised a program some years ago that was an internal. He was running inside sales for a vendor, and he was running a team across EMEA, and we created an incentive program called C15, and which Mark you were involved with
I do
that.
remember, yes.
Um, but we actually got to a point there where, again, a lot of people might say, look, it's really important that you tell everyone where you're going, what you're doing, where the venue is, blah, blah, in order to attract their attendance. We got to a point with that where we'd built such a reputation with C15 that we actually didn't tell them where it was. We actually made it a surprise.
Right.
But because the reputation of C15 was so strong, they didn't care. In fact, it created more expectation, more excitement, more desire to qualify to get on that because it
Right.
was a surprise.
Right.
So these are all sort of little elements to
Right.
there is no one silver bullet along this. You have to work hard. One of the big we speak to all of our clients are obviously on a regular basis, and the biggest challenge with events is getting people to attend.
Right.
It, like you said, Mark, there are hundreds of events going on out there.
Yes.
Okay. But getting people to attend those events is really tricky. And for me,
Mm, mm.
the number one reason that anyone attends an event is to develop the relationship with the person that is inviting them.
Right. Right. Should be.
Okay. So if I sort of put that, explain a little bit further there, okay. Scenario one is that I get some generic message from some platform that says invites me to an event. Okay. The likelihood of me clicking in and saying yes, I'll attend on that event is remote. Whereas if I get a personalized email from somebody that I value and respect the relationship with saying, look, Mark, we've got this event. I'd really love you to come along. It's going to be fun. I'm going to make sure it's really good fun. I'll be there and we can have a good chat and catch up. That will do
Makes a
far
difference.
better than just a generic invite. So having those relationships and leveraging those relationships, the next biggest reason why people will attend, again, in my view, is so the first is to network with the person that's attending, but the next one is to network with the other people that are
Yes.
also attending. So make sure that you share, you know, common relationships and say that these will be attending as well. It's about people. Events is about people. It's
Yeah. As I
about
said, the
relationship.
networking opportunity goes back to the comedy luncheon. I think, as you said, there's likely to be this with hundreds of people there on that one event. There's likely to be, if you've been in the industry any period of time, there'll be quite a few people that you will know. I was intrigued there though by what you said about the personalised invitation, because you said you get invitations, you get so much stuff coming into your inbox, a personalised one, but so much stuff is now automated, isn't it? So many of these events, in some respects, the marketing department may be given a have an event that they want to promote. I understand what it is that they're trying to do, but then they've probably got some kind of as I said invitation engine within the business that then just sends them out. I use the word willy nilly, but I think the personalised one makes a lot of sense. Makes an awful lot of sense to me.
It does, and once people have accepted, then you can go down a route of slightly more generic because and again, if it's senior level, working with their EAs, it might also be really important. So to try and design an invitation that is invest in the invitation.
Right.
What Mark, we'll talk about it a little bit further, but we created during COVID a service called MemMail, which stands for Memory Mail.
Correct. Just coming on to it here now. Tell everyone.
Well, look at the end of the day, COVID for us was, can you imagine a business that sells events that all of a sudden COVID comes on and makes events no more
It
illegal?
made it, as you said, made it illegal for a period of time. So it
They
was
were. Okay.
devastating, not to all businesses. If you think about it, many in the tech sector actually did extraordinarily well because there was everyone all of a sudden having to work from home. Maybe they didn't have the equipment, the capabilities or resources to do that. So the tech industry, I think, for many businesses, I think 2020, 2021, they were peak periods. But as you said, for a business that is person to person business. I mean, basically, you must have had to shut the doors to the office and wrap some yellow and black hazard warning tape around it. That was it. It was so it could have been the death now.
That was it. And not like other agencies, we were exploring ways of trying to sort of pivot into the world of virtual
Yeah.
events, and just looking for different ways. But there are a lot of people doing that. It isn't our skill set.
Hmm.
That's a very technical sell. There's some really great players out there. But we found a niche during COVID, and this new, born of which was MemMail. The first one was, we are about the experience. We are about creating and engaging with delegates, okay? Not just one size fits all. So we started to look, we decided to take that into a virtual world. So we started to, I'm sure many of you would have attended virtual experiences where we would get people together on teams. We'd used to do cheese and wine tastings, we'd do quizzes, we'd have some really amazing speakers come on, high profile sporting, legends. Um, we did sort of virtual games online, with all sorts of things online. But to support the actual online piece,
Mm.
we used to send in advance a box. So if you were doing a cheese and wine tasting in advance, we would, to your home address, because everyone was working from home, we would deliver a really nice cheese and wine box. But unlike our competitors, who might have been ordering that from Waitrose or something, we brought it in house. So the actual box and unpacking
Mm.
experience was branded.
Yes, yeah, yeah. Rather than Waitrose branded.
Well, not Waitrose. So we would brand with the client's colours, logos. We would include handwritten notes that were all uniquely personalised. Okay. So again, rather than just receiving a box from Amazon or Waitrose or wherever that
Mm.
was very kind of impersonal, practical,
Yes.
they would receive this box with a handwritten note from the MD or the sales rep, or who or your partner manager, whoever, with a nice little reference to something personal that was there. Again, it's this delivering very focused, unique experiences, not one
Mm.
size fits all.
Mm.
And we did incredibly well with that. From a business that didn't exist, we ramped up. I think at the peak we were that whole MemMail and virtual events was north of £1 million of revenue from nothing, which was pretty amazing.
Yeah, and that was from a standing start, and but great in many respects. I think it was the case for many of us. It was formulated in response to COVID, in response to the lockdown, which effectively put a constraint, a massive constraint on your traditional business, um, but forced you into creative thinking and you come up with some alternative, still kind of in the same game in many respects, similar clientele. So I'm assuming it was mainly, vendors and disties and so on, within the tech community. But and also similarly, it was much of it was done. Those events were really about kind of trying to make sure the team, although they were all now fragmented, working from home, and in many situations for many people must have been very, very difficult for them. It was a bit of comfort in some respects to receive some of those gifts, and invitations to online events. So has it continued still? Is MemMail still existing now? We're not in COVID anymore. We don't have lockdown.
Yeah, no, look, it really is. So it has continued. It has evolved, like everyone's business will evolve. So we're not doing any more of these virtual online experiences, for
Right, right. No
example.
more cheese and wine on
No
a
more cheese and
on a Friday
wine.
afternoon. No.
Um, but some of the so we run a lot of campaigns for clients. It's a very bespoke service, so it's not, again, that's our approach. So A lot of our clients use it to top and tail and extend the lifespan and the ROI of their live event positions.
Right.
Okay. So we talk about how you make an event stand out, how you get higher return on investment, better engagement, how you really do um, make it stand out. So again, we talked about the difficulty of getting people to attend events, even the most expensive events. You know, we use MemMail as a pre-event invitation.
Right.
How many emails do we all get a day? Thousands, and
Yes.
you don't remember any of them. But generally, if something nice arrives in the post that you have to unpack or open up, it will create a memory and it will last a significant amount of time, and it will certainly plant seed in here. Whereas an email invitation, sometimes you just don't see it, goes to spam. It just doesn't land.
Yes. Yes. It's odd in the consumer world. You could say outside of business, it's like a wedding invitation. Is you think of how fussy they can be sometimes. Kind of gold edged and beautifully presented, but also children's parties again. And so I suppose in some sense, as you said, you're making the invitation not just the event special, you can make the invitation special as well in some way, shape, or form. Listen, it's just as actually just getting some mail nowadays rather than an email could make something stand out. So
It does. Royal
yes,
Mail did a whole piece of
yes,
research
yeah.
on
And as
this,
you
and
said,
it's fascinating how back in the day it was direct mail. We do premium direct mail, but it's and look, the other one is post event, and this is again another trend that we're seeing.
all right,
We're seeing our clients invest in post event because too often the event takes place and then everyone's on to the next thing. There's no budget set aside for post event.
right,
Post event is an enormous opportunity that we are now slowly seeing budget holders acknowledge and invest.
right.
So
Okay,
invest into post event mem mail.
yeah,
Okay. So we run we've done a couple now, but we run an event at Abbey Road, that the world famous recording studio. Um, and again, talk about creative memories. What again? Yeah, incredible. But post event, we sent a book, hard copy coffee table book from that was produced for the history of Abbey Road. This was sent to anyone that attended after the event. And they were a coffee table book. They will have that on their coffee table for years.
I've been to Abbey Road, not with one of your events, but I say I have this here. For many years, I was desperate to go to Abbey Road. Oh, look, I've even got coasters here as well from Abbey Road. I was contemplating buying an Uber Eats bib and turning up with a box of an empty pizza box on a little moped and seeing if I could blag my way in for the band who've ordered a pizza. But fortunately, and this is during that in between lockdown period, they did open it up for about 3 days. It was very rigorous in terms of security and the other kind of restrictions that we had at that time. But it's an amazing place, and as you said, if you can, one thing to go there, that's memorable in and of itself, I think, because it has those legendary steps. My guess is many of the people would have had their photos taken maybe on the steps of Abbey Road, or of course you have the zebra crossing very nearby, again another. So I would have thought, particularly then with a book following it up, that event impressed on their mind in a way like no other. So yeah, that clearly very, very special. So the I like the idea, as you said, pre-event and post event. But you said there that's something that maybe your clients are now beginning to maybe to carve out a piece of that budget and say we need to keep a certain amount allocated for post-event follow-up. We're coming to the last few questions here, and it is one about we all now, I think it's fair to say, our attention spans are shorter, expectations in some respects are higher, and my guess is, particularly in the IT industry, expectations from people regarding what is a good event, what something that is higher than it's ever been. But how do you see the any other ways that you would see events evolving, let's say in the next 2 to 3 years? What other shifts have you begun to see, or potentially you're kind of predicting maybe there's a move in a certain direction? What should companies be preparing for now?
Yeah, look, as I said, Mark, more and more there's a focus on, the whole ROI, and that we absolutely have purpose and outcome at the front of every brief.
Yeah.
Okay. And as I said, that has been going on for some time. Um, but what the trend that we're seeing is become more, less is more, if you like. Let's rather than do the big events that are a little bit impersonal, let's start to
Got you.
concentrate the budget. Let's really, basically write who we want there. Who do we want at this event, and go out of our way to make sure that we invest in the whole journey that individual receives. Another trend that we're seeing is, events are won and lost in the first 5 minutes that you attend. That's a real that's a real trend at the moment. I talk about, through some training that I did, arrival obsession. So here's how it might have happened in the past. If I attend an event, I arrive there. I've got the tube there. I've walked in. I don't necessarily know anyone. I arrive at a registration desk, and there's a very nice person behind the registration that says, "Hey, here's your name badge, Nick, and look, if you go through those doors, then there's some coffee and some bacon sandwiches, or whatever, or some pastries on the side. Help yourself, all right." Gives me a name badge and just shoos me off into the room. So straight away, I'm walking into a room, 100 people, let's say. I don't really know who's there and who's not. So I get myself a coffee, and I get my phone, and I go and stand in the corner, and I start doing my phone, and
It's
I'm
not
like,
just me then.
it's not just so straight away I'm kind of on the back foot. I'm thinking, why did I sign up for this? And I think I might just go. But no, I then say, oh, I'm going to venture out in the room and try and network, and then you go into the room and you get what we call closed groups, where people
Yes.
stand in a huddle, and you just can't get in. And all sorts of scenarios where it just, and often, and I dare I say it, that closed hoop is for people from the company that are hosting.
Right.
But anyway, that maybe that isn't true. Whereas how that might look is that if I arrive at the same event, okay, I'll go up to the same registration desk. Once again, I'm met very warmly, and the person starts to ask me some small talk questions. Have you come far this morning? Have you enjoyed the weather? Um, uh, how was the traffic? Those types of things. And then they might say, okay, Mark, I can see you're being hosted by Nick today. Just give me one sec. I'm going to go and get Nick. I can see him there. I'm going to get him over.
Right.
So go and get Nick. Mark, Nick, I think you know each other. Mark, how you doing? Great to see you. Traffic, okay, blah, blah. Come with me. We're going to go in here. All right. Get your coffee, get your pastry, blah, blah. And then come over here. I've got some people I'd love you to meet. All right.
Yes. Yes.
Bang, you're in there. This is Mark. This is, yeah, this is John. This is Fred. Straight away, you're there. Mark's from this, that, and the other. look, Mark, I've just got a couple of the guests arriving. I'll come and spy you in a bit.
Yes, yes. But you've
That
been
happens.
invited by that point. You've been introduced to some
You're
people.
in. That's in the first 5 minutes. You're now
Right.
thinking, wow, this is great. So, obsession on that first 5 minutes. Same
Yes.
with films. I don't know. We flick through films on Amazon, and if in 5 minutes I'm not engaged, I'll flick on to the next.
It's interesting that some of the other things I've heard of recently on that. I think it was I can't remember the name of the actor, but they're saying now when they're writing scripts for for a Netflix show or a series or a movie, they now have to be aware that many of the viewers are not just solely attending to the film itself. They're probably scrolling at the same time. So they now have to make sure that certain parts of the plot are repeated because it's possible that the audience, as I say, you don't have 100% of their attention anymore. You might have it in a theatre, but at home, how many times do you maybe sit watching something on the TV and you've still got, some device in your hand and you're scrolling through and you're literally flicking from one to the other? And I would have thought also, I mean, events in general have that's part and parcel of it as well. You just think about those times when if you go to a big conference at the Excel Centre, InfoSec or something, there's what's going on in the halls themselves, but also outside of that, all of those little coffee shops and bars and whatever. But the mass of people there, they are actually either in conversation or they're on their laptops or on their phones. We're basically in two or three places at any one time, not solely dedicated to the one. So be interesting to see how that changes because I also think that our familiarity with let's say a smartphone and other apps, it's whereas I think 10 years ago it would have been seen as incredibly rude for you to be out at dinner and maybe to start scrolling. I think that's there's always a or is it just me? There's often a phone, there on the table, and at times when the conversation lulls, or if somebody goes to the convenience, all of a sudden the phone is up and you're somewhere else immediately. I wonder how that will affect. In my world, again, in a training environment, that has been a huge transformation. In the late 1990s or even early 2000s, there were mobile phones, but you could ask everybody to turn them off. Turn them off. You could, and you weren't interrupted at all. That's very, very difficult to do nowadays because people, a lot of time, do need to be in two places at once. But anyway, let's park that. There's a couple of final questions.
Well, yeah, just so Mark,
Please, if you can pick up.
again, you know, again, how you make your rent stand out. We talk about coffee there. We people are so discerning these days, and quite as we quite rightly, that whole big jug of wish wash coffee doesn't pack it anymore, does it? We all want. So
One of
we're
those.
correct. We all put barista into a couple of barista stations in now, and make people oat milk, and we won't just people are very potentially more healthy, so we'll do if we do breakfast, we'll make sure that there's various selections there.
Yes, yes.
You have to be. You can't just tick boxes here anymore. This is
No,
why,
definitely.
fewer events, higher impact is definitely a future trend.
Right. Yeah, yeah.
You need to. It's not just a volume based thing. You talk about people going on their own. Well, you need to get audience participation in everything you're doing,
Yeah.
and build in shorter windows and more breaks.
Right.
Get
Yes.
them involved, whether that's a problem solving round session or round table, whether it's sort of a peer led session. Get
Yeah.
people interacting. That's the only way you'll get them off the phones.
Yeah.
The
And
minute
more breaks.
they're in a room like that, okay, they're gonna be on the phones.
Yes. Yes. And you said more breaks there as well. Do you think?
Yeah, yeah. Shorter sessions, more breaks. People like networking more.
Right.
People like to go and meet people. Some of the more hospitality driven events that we do, that we won't, we run again, it's not really a B2B event, but we run a sporting lunch. And rather than have a starter, a main, and a dessert, we have scrapped the starter and we have a pre-event drinks for an hour and a half and serve canapes. People love that whole interaction to be able to go round and chat and catch up with different people. The minute that you're sitting at a table,
Mm.
you often can only talk to the
That's right.
person to your left or your right, even on a round table.
Yes,
So,
yes, yes. And
whereas
if the
in that
person, and
in
if the
that
person's,
dynamic drinks reception, that's an example of audience participation. How and look, finally, sustainable evidence. I know we've talked about sustainability on and off for many years, but people are looking now for evidence of it, not just promises.
of sustainability,
Yes. Yeah, the environmental impact, it is there. It has bounced up and down, but it is important that that is considered. You're talking about future trends.
right?
We need to give hard evidence of event sustainability.
Public transport rather than
But
transportation.
correct, using trains, maybe not using plastic. Um, plastics are a real no-go in exhibitions, ripping out carpet and having stands that end up in landfill, merchandise again
Mm.
that ends up, don't give cheap merchandise away. Think about it, get something to them, to your people that they will use, and you'll get a real
Yes,
return on sustainable
right, right.
measure on it.
Yeah, no, that it certainly makes sense to me, particularly on the transportation side. I went to an event. I don't think it was organised by yourselves, but it was a vendor event over by Fulham Football Club, and I made the mistake of going. I can't remember. I'm just trying to think. Is it Q? I think it might have been. I think the station that I went to, which was the nearest one. But oh, Nick, it was it was a good 3/4 of a mile, maybe a mile walk from the station, and wasn't aware of that. I had a couple of rather heavy bags with me as well because I was going to be staying over. And it was, and and as you said, to be honest, it takes the shine off what was undoubtedly meant to be a very special, memorable day. But notice my memory is of my miserable trek, even though it was alongside the side of the Thames. But it wasn't the right time of year. But you could say it could have been quite beautiful, but not what I'd anticipated and not what I expected. So yeah, even things like that, in some respects, can have the complete opposite effect, I suppose. I'm sure the organizer hadn't considered my carrying my bags. But anyway, put me to one side. Now then, last question for you. Oddly enough, Nick, on behalf of our sponsor of the podcast, In Connection, I've been asking our guests on this series to name their most memorable event, be it a partner event or a kick-off or a president's club. So, given I can't imagine anybody in the world who might have had as much experience as you with regards to event. What do you have an event that was most memorable for you? And I might ask you this twice then. What was the most memorable event for you? And then I'm going to come up with a follow up. But what about for yourself?
Um, yeah, look, I'll, I ran an event for, I'm trying to avoid names in here just because I don't want to get anyone fired, but it was an IT vendor. It was some years ago now. I don't know, maybe 10 or 15 years ago. And it was the global accounts team, and the guy who ran global accounts for a very big IT vendor who I had a relationship we did work for. he phoned me up and says, look, Nick, I need to deliver an event. My team have absolutely smashed their target. And I said, I need to deliver an event. He says, but I need to just explain who the audience is. He said, this is global accounts. These guys are looking after the biggest accounts on the planet, Vodafone, HSBC, whoever, I don't know. But anyway, he says, so their day job basically is traveling to all the biggest cities in the world, staying in the great hotels and
Yes.
eating in the most amazing restaurants. I said, so, that's the challenge. It's a very discerning audience. So anyway, after a lot of sort of thought and sort of to and fro, we decided Ibiza was the destination because there aren't too many global head offices
Right.
in Ibiza. So that was decided upon, and we put together an incredible program that we executed to, again, the memories that I still have now, and I can phone up any of the people. I know all the people that attended it, and I could phone any of them up. They're all in my phone, and they would pick the phone up to me. And I haven't spoken to them often for 5 and more years, and they would absolutely be like my best friend immediately. But I'm not going to tell you about the actual trip, but the scenario is that we had it all set up. And part of the deal was that this team were meeting at their head office in Reading, and we needed to get them to the airport. So we'd procured the most unbelievable luxury land yacht coach that you could ever imagine, the one that Chelsea football team used for their away
Right.
game. Got kitchen in it, leather seats, tables. It was just unbelievable. Anyway, 2 weeks before we're due to go, I get a phone call at about 10 o'clock at night just saying, hey, Nick, I've just had a thought. There is no way that coach can turn up at the office because if everyone else in the office sees this coach, they will, I'll be fired.
There'd be a riot.
There'll be a riot. So, long story short, I was then tasked with replacing that coach with a humble coach, but we actually had a laugh and thought, let's go the other way. Let's get the worst coach we can possibly find. Now, Mark, that can I say that's one of the most difficult tasks I've ever had to fulfill because this is how I'd go. I'd be in the phone book or in Google or wherever it was, and I'd be looking for coach companies in Reading, and I'd phone them up and say, I'd like to book a coach.
Yes.
Which reply, yes, you're in the right place, sir. I've got the most amazing luxury coaches right in the yard here looking at them.
Yeah.
And I'd be saying, no, no, I don't want one of those. I want the
You want?
absolute old. And they thought I was one of these
I
spoof
bet. I
callers. They were
bet.
putting the phone down, blah,
You.
blah, blah.
It's like you wanted a 1980s coach with no air conditioning and cigarette ashtrays on the backs of the seats in front, if you remember.
That's it.
And
And I don't. And I saw it. It was like I was driving down the M6 and there was black smoke out the back. The curtains in this coach were like had like white cable across, and you'd pull it on the cable. Anyway, this
brilliant.
was it. It was a vision. So I'm like, sort of took a picture or something of the number and phoned the guy up. Anyway, he basically refused to do the job. This was his pride and joy, and couldn't believe that I was going to do that. But eventually, cut a long story short, I did phone someone up, and they said, look, Nick, it's going to cost you, but I'm just looking at it right now. It needs MOTing, but it's perfect.
Brilliant.
Anyway, we delivered against that. And did he deliver? He took the hubcaps, so he took crisp packets and cigarette butts down the aisle. He'd sprayed muck all over the side of it. And look, the pictures on the guys and girls' faces as they came out of their office in their fancy bespoke suits and leather briefcases, getting onto this coach, looking at each other, and
Brilliant.
Kevin and me shouting, pretending that it was a luxury coach. But again, you talk about creative memories. Any one of those people would remember this to the day.
Yeah,
We went
yeah.
half a mile, Majestic Stadium, pulled up, everyone switched back into the land yacht
Oh, gotcha. Brilliant, brilliant.
and the
Well, I
rest
said
is history.
it's great, and it provided, oddly enough, as you said, a fantastic contrast to where they were going and what they were going to be experiencing. But super. I'm sure you've got many others that you've got some stories from as well. But we won't have time for them today. But maybe we will in the not too distant future, Nick. I'm gonna bring us to a close here now. Thank you for spending your time with us here today. That was a super conversation. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And if you do go to Abbey Road at some point with a client at some point in the not too distant future, do bear me in mind. I would desperately like to go there again. But and until then, Nick, thanks very much for joining us, and we'll see you soon.
Yeah, Mark, really appreciate the opportunity today. Thoroughly enjoyed it myself, and we'll see you soon. Thank you so much.
Brilliant.